Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to take a look at some Astro Tools Nano socket ratchets. And these are pretty interesting because if you recall when we looked at the ULSA shallow sockets, super shallow sockets, and the Astro super shallow, they call them their nano sockets, we made note that inside the socket on the periphery there was some grooves, and I thought that those grooves would line up with the inside of a socket or ratchet. And sure enough, you can see inside this ratchet they have a clip. And the way that looks is you put this together, push that in, and that retains that socket in that ratchet. Now, ULSA also sells this exterior clip, so if you want, you can put that on there, and everything is held very strong, and you have knurling that you can take advantage of to turn the overall tool. So now this is a 24 millimeter, and that overall dimension, and the overall dimension of this 24 millimeter depth wise is just over 1.25 inches. So that is a very shallow drive, and this handle is nice and long. It is from the center of the socket to the end of the handle you have 17 inches. So that's a nice long handle that you can get into something and really try and get some leverage on something in a shallow spot. I will say this one that I have, you can see the flex head is pre-flexed, super flexy. That's a little nitpicky. Some guys really like them loose like that. I normally like them a little tighter, and I think that's probably something that you could play around with and get it tighter on your own. I really don't want to get too picky about that. Now, we also have a 3/8 variant right here, and we can see this one also has that snap ring in there, and that will line up with our groove on the outside of our 3/8 drive 9/16 socket. Push that in there, and you can see that it's got a nice engagement. That one doesn't flop around as much, and that is nice and flush. Same thing, we can go ahead and put this ULSA clip right into that, and with our ULSA clip we are just over 1 inch, so that's pretty shallow. And this is a 9/16. You could go up to 1 inch with the set, as I recall, and it would all be the same depth. So same thing here, we're going to go from the center of the socket to the end of the handle. That's 10 inches. So that's a nice length for a 3/8 drive. And then last but not least, we have our 1/4 inch, and we just looked at those. We had our 1/4 inch Astros. They also have that nice relief in there for the ratchet handle, and I guess I should show you. There's your clip inside the ratchet, and we can go ahead and put our socket in there. Now that one feels a little bit more crunchy, but it is holding. And what we can do then is we can get our ULSA Tools clip and stick that in here, and now we have, this is a 9/16 as well, but now we are down to just under 7/8. With that just under 7/8, let's take a look at our overall length, about center. I'm going to call that 9 3/4. So it's very near what the 3/8 is. So the quarter is quite a bit longer proportionately than the 3/8, which it's okay. There's no problem with that. It's one of those things where maybe the 3/8 could have been a little longer, but it's still a good tool to get you into a lot of spots. Now, something of note, if you wanted to, you should notice that there's no direction changing on these whatsoever. Not really a critical thing, but none of these are directional. If you want to change direction, you're going to have to take it apart, put it back together again, and then you'll have your other direction. Same with the 1/2 inch. Goes that way. Pull your socket out. Might have to pop that there. This is retained in there pretty well, which is a good thing. Put this in the other way, just like that. Put your little clip in. And then you can turn it the other way. So that's just one of those things that you need to keep in mind, because occasionally you can get yourself into a position where you can't back the ratchet up and you can't go forward and you get it stuck in somewhere. So when you can't reverse these, just keep that in mind as something that might happen so you don't get yourself stuck. Now these, maybe you'd be able to disassemble it or do something like that. I don't know, but you'll figure that out if you get jammed up with it. So I just thought I'd do a quick little video here on these ratchets. I know one of the commenters made note that, hey, there's a 3/8 one available, and I think they said there was other sizes as well. And I thought, well, we got these sockets, why not give these a go and get the ratchets to go with them? I find stuff like this really interesting. These are very, very shallow, and if you consider how much you can get into tight areas with something like this, that is really, really handy. So I know the quarter is on an 11 millimeter. The 3/8 is on a 17 millimeter, and the 1/2 inch is on a 22 millimeter. So if you really needed something super shallow that was 11 millimeter, you'd have to watch your clip, but this is a 12-point 11 millimeter ratchet, really. So that's kind of handy as well. So let me know what you think. I think tools like this are great. They have a lot of useful functions in the shop. Having these nice long handles is going to be super handy for getting into tight spots and needing leverage. That's something that's, you need that. It's one of those things, when you're working on stuff, you need stuff like that to get things apart or back together again. Let me know if you have these, if the looseness of this joint is annoying to you, or if it's not. Let me know if you broke them. I'd be curious to see how much force this joint can take. I mean, it's your typical breaker bar-esque joint, and it's been around for a long time, so I would expect they kind of know what they're doing here with these, but you never know. I didn't have any markings on these when I got them, but I'm going to assume they were made in Taiwan or China. Let me know what you think, if you have them, if you like them, if you don't, if you broke them, how you broke them. Let me know if you think you're going to pick up a set, if they've bailed you out, or if they were a disappointment. I find all those things really fascinating, and there's a good group of guys in the comments that are sharing what they know, which really helps out people when they look at these things, which I think is great. So as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.